Hi guys, welcome to Third Stall Garage. My name is Doug. Today's project is I am working on installing an air system in my shop. Upstairs I've got an air compressor. I'm going to work on plumbing air lines through the shop and the garage. I'm going to be using Pex airlines, and I've got a variety of fittings, clamps to crimp on, crimping tools, pipe cutters. I'm going to be working on installing an air filter and a desiccant dryer to hopefully set up the shop for paint booth and sandblasting and the air tools and other air equipment use. Stay tuned, I'll tell you how I did it and why I did it. Before I describe exactly how I'm going to install the system, I want to explain a little bit of why I chose the design that I did, but also the purpose, how I'm going to use the system, which is going to greatly affect, how I build it, and how you would use your air system would define, how you build yours too, for what its purposes are. So in my shop, I'm mainly going to be doing three different things with the air pressure. The main one is going to be air tools, impact wrenches, grinders, those type of things. So I'll want a variety of different air drops around the shop. Let me flip the camera on and show you a bit what I mean. So I have a two-stall workshop. There's the 66 Mustang convertible named Vin that I'm working on restoring on this channel. This is my brother's 79 Volkswagen Beetle. The place is called Third Stall Garage because I am blessed to have a 4-stall garage, 2 stalls that I park in. This would be the 3rd stall, which is open for helping people on their project. 4th stall is for my project. So this is where I'll be doing the majority of the working on things. You can see right there's a green piece of tape right there, and there's a green piece there. There's 1, 2, 3 more that you can't see. Those are where I hope to run the airline around the ceiling and then do drops down. So if I need 2 air cords plugged in, air lines plugged in, air hoses, there we go, hoses plugged in, I can plug them each there, or a variety of different places, so I have air where I need it. Those are just going to be 3/8 inch typical air fittings that stick out of the wall. The 2 things that will be unique that I want to do a little bit differently, on this one here, I'm going to plumb down and go directly into my sandblasting cabinet. Right now I run my sandblasting cabinet from my air compressor with about 100 foot of a 3/8 inch diameter air hose, which just does not give me enough flow to run the cabinet the way that I want it to. So I'm going to plumb an airline directly to it, and I'm going to get rid of as many fittings and restrictions as I can. I'm going to take off the regulator and the water separator and put those elsewhere, simply because I've got other dryers on the line, and every time it goes through one of these small fittings, it decreases the airflow. So I'm going to plumb it right to this as well. The other one is eventually I hope to turn this shop into a temporary paint booth. And so I think the 3rd stall side, this right-hand side, is going to be where I'll eventually hang plastic all the way around, install a ventilation system using the window and the garage door behind me, and where I'll be able to do painting. So on the wall over here, I'm going to do a drop as well. But in that drop, I'm going to install a desiccant air filter that I'm going to be building out of this water filtration unit, and also a filtering unit to remove any dust particles, debris, or whatever out of the air, so that when I do my paint booth on this side, this will be the drop where I attach my air gun or my paint gun and do my painting from. So that's the plan. My compressor is, let me back up a bit and give you a perspective. So I have a 2-stall garage. My workshop's on this side, parking on this side. I'm gonna put a couple air drops here just if I need to pump up bike tires or car tires. My compressor is upstairs way in the back. So I'm gonna plumb the line down, go around the ceiling on the back of the garage into the shop and run around the ceiling on the shop here, and then do my drops where I want access to the line. So let's buzz upstairs a second. I'm gonna show you where my air system starts and how I'm trying to get cool, dry air to the whole shop. All right, let's head upstairs. So I'm blessed enough to have us upstairs to the garage. I apologize, it is a complete mess. The front of this eventually is supposed to be kind of a wood shop. The right-hand side now is leftover Volkswagen parts. Some random Volkswagen parts on the right, some random 57 Chevy parts in the back. This is the rest of my Mustang. There's the seats. And here's my air compressor. It's nice. It isn't the greatest air compressor in the world. It's got a 5-horse single stage compressor on it. Gives me about 10 CFM, which I'd love to have more like 20 so I could do more sandblasting, but it's what I've got. It's quite old, so I'm trying to maintain it well and get as much life out of it as I can. Recently, when I acquired it, took it all apart, cleaned all of this out so it stays cooler, changed the oil in the compressor, tighten the belt, replace the belt, things like that, just to increase the life of it. The other thing that I did recently is these are the ports where the air comes out, the upper port, and then similarly, there's a lower 2-inch plug in here. And I took that out because the drain line on the bottom was completely plugged. And this gave me room to stick a flashlight in there and a pry bar and just scrape all of the sludge loose and the rust and the crud that was on the bottom of it. And then was able to stick a shop vac hose and a tube in there to suck all of that out. So my tank is fairly clean now. And I'll tell you my plan for how I'm gonna keep it that way. The main thing I wanna do is I want my air to be cool and I want my air to be dry. And dry air comes when it's cool because the condensate falls out of it, hot air stays moist. And I need a way for the moisture to drop out of the air, flow to a central gathering point. And so before the air ever exits the system to get used, it's cool and mostly dry. So the way that I did that is the air comes out of my compressor right here. And I have a video detailing this if you want to see more about it. And this comes out incredibly hot. I put an infrared temperature sensor on it one time. I think it's 350, 400 degrees, something like that. Way hotter than you ever want to touch with your hand. And so what the air does is it comes across here, goes down, and then turns and goes across the system. And then there's a drop that I'll talk about in the floor down there. But basically, it zigzags back and forth through this copper tubing all the way up to the top. And then eventually comes out the top here and then drops down into my tank. Well, what's interesting to see is, you know, this feed line that's at 300-400 degrees is incredibly hot to the touch. And then you can feel with your hand as the air goes up, by the time it gets to the top here, it's room temperature. And when I soldered all of those together, you know, they were all square 90-degree joints. And then what I did was mounted the bottom one and then stretched the whole thing up a little bit. So in essence, as that air cools and condensate forms inside the tubes, the water flows back and back and back and back and back until the water drops out the bottom. And that way my air cools down before it goes into the tank. And it also kind of dries itself. Otherwise, that hot, moist air goes into your tank, and then all of the water condensates inside your tank. So in theory, the air comes down, the condensate flows back or flows down, and then goes out this first PEX pipe. Any condensate that falls out in the tank, or moisture that collects in the tank, will come out the bottom of the tank and will go down this fitting, go through an elbow, and go down through the floor as well. And then here is now where my air supply is. So simply put a ball valve in here. I have an air chuck in case I need any air upstairs here. Eventually I will probably take this out and plumb air through the upstairs, but that will be a later project. And simply go through a street elbow, and then this line will become my air supply. So why PEX? Why 3/4 inch? And how do you crimp PEX? A lot of great videos in crimping PEX, so I'm not going to go too much in depth of that. So why did I choose PEX? Technically it's made for water, not for airlines. It's rated for a high enough pressure in water that will be similar to, I think it's rated for 125 or 150 PSI of water. That's about the range I'll be using it for air. I think there are a lot of people that have been using PEX for air for a long time and have had good luck with it. So that gives me enough of a high enough confidence level to it. I also like that if I get a little bit of water trapped in the system, PEX is a little bit flexible and can take a little bit of water freezing because the shop is not heated up here, nor is my garage heated downstairs. My shop, the 3rd and 4th stall, is heated. So PEX has a little bit of flexibility. It can take a little bit of water freezing in it if that happens to be the case, although in theory, my dryer system should keep the system completely dry. The other main factor for me in it is just cost. PEX is very affordable. I forget the rolls of it. I think we're like 53, 54 bucks for 100 feet of 3/4 inch PEX. And then you got to buy the fittings and the tools. All in all, cheaper than copper, cheaper than black pipe. Pretty easy, very easy to work with. So also it won't rust on the inside, which will hopefully keep flecks of rust out of my air tools or my paint equipment or sandblaster. So that's the reason I chose PEX. Why blue over red? I don't know. I thought about white, thought about blue. Air seems cold and red seems like it would indicate that it's hot. So for no particular reason, I chose blue. You could go red and white and blue and be patriotic if you want. Why 3/4 inch? I don't know for sure. Other than, well, I should say what I don't know for sure is would a 1/2 inch have been enough? There's not much of a price difference between 1/2 inch and 3/4. I know for my sandblaster, I want as much flow as I can get. And for the minor price increase from 1/2 inch to 3/4, I decided to go 3/4. I thought I will never regret it once I do it and do it right and have plenty of flow to have the 3/4. What I didn't think about is that the 3/4 is a little bit just stiffer, and I'm going to struggle a little bit more to get it where I want, partly because it comes coiled up and I'm going to be running mainly straight lines, so it kind of fights you and wants to go back to its curled position. That's where I am, why I chose what I did. You know, it would be helpful if I was making this video 10 years from now and had that history to look back on, but I'll show you a little bit of how I'm gonna make it, but really watching me just cut and run lines and crimp them isn't that exciting, so I'll show you one or two and show you the system when I'm done, and also detail a little bit my desiccant dryer and air filter too. So I'm gonna get to work for a little while and I'll show you the progress as it comes along. All right, let's talk a little bit about assembling PEX and how do you crimp the joints, because that always seemed a little intimidating to me, and now that I'm doing it, I'm shocked at how easy it is. Things you need to buy: you need the tubing, you need fittings. You can get brass or plastic. They're about the same cost. I got mine off Amazon. I chose brass because if it comes to metal or plastic, my gut tells me to always choose metal. So you need the plastic, you need the fitting. You don't need, but I would recommend buying a tubing cutter tool. You can cut it with a utility knife in a pinch, but it's hard and it's important to get a fairly square burr-free end. And you'll need a crimping tool. This was, I think, 40 bucks, something like that. 37 maybe. Crimping tool was $10 to $13. And then the tubing and the fitting. Cutting tool is just, it's so smooth. You just simply put it on where you need it and it cuts it right off. Nice and easy, no hard work at all. Oh, the other piece that you need is the copper crimping collars. You can also buy stainless steel ones that are more like a hose clamp, and they have a little bit of a mechanical catch to them, where the collar goes around and then there's a little neck that comes out almost like with a T, and then your crimpers pinch that. Probably works fine. I just like the idea of a solid copper band around there. It looks a little cleaner. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your copper fitting, push it in the end. Goes in a little tough, but not too hard. But you wanna make sure that it's all the way up to the edge so the plastic doesn't leave a gap like such. You're gonna push it all the way up, which is why you want kind of a square end. And then you're gonna slide this collar so that the gap between the collar and the edge of the tubing, if the tubing is pushed all the way in, is between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. What you'll do then is your collar is gonna be placed in such a way that it is over top of these two middle barbs. So that when you crimp the collar down right about there, it now has two of these crimped barbed surfaces that it's sealing against. So I'm gonna wanna crimp it right about there. I don't know how I'm gonna do this with just two hands. One of the challenges I've found so far is there are occasional times where you're trying to crimp something and it's up in a joist or somewhere where it's just a little bit hard to get the tool on. I gotta adjust this just a touch to make I'm a little more than 1/4 inch away from the end. I've got my crimping tool about where I need it, and you simply go. My tubing just fell in the background. So that is crimped. The last step you need to do is your crimping tools come with these go, no-go gauges. It's a little hard to see, but this is the 3/4 inch one. The crimping tool that I bought comes with 3/4 inch fitting and 1/2 inch fitting. Figure I'll probably be doing plumbing in a house someday and I'll want the 1/2 inch. This looks like a complete half circle, but there is, I don't know if you can see right about there, there's a line above which says no go, and below the line says go. So the width on the bottom here is a little bit longer than the width up here. And the intent of that is you put this over your collar and it's supposed to go to that point, that means you've crimped it enough. But if it were to go all the way down and sit flush like that, now I'm off of the collar right now, that would mean that the crimping tool is set wrong. So it needs to stop right at that point. So this is the way that you can check that your crimpings are correct. This tool, and if I'm good, I'll put a link on it in the notes, has adjustments so that if, you know, and it came correct out of the box. But if it's not crimping enough, or if it's crimping too much, then I can adjust it. That's it. Really, each one, I mean, that's nice and clean. I don't have a big clamp sticking out on there. It's not a great big black pipe fitting. And it's done, and that should be airtight. Of course, I'll be curious once I'm done with the whole thing to go around with soapy water and test everything, but that is fast and easy. This piece of pipe has a little bit of curve to it. It is flexible, but it's stiff. So I'm going to use elbows and T's at all of my joints. If you were going around a corner and you wanted maybe a 2-foot radius, you could do that with a 3/4 inch Pex. But you're not gonna, unless you're heating it up and majorly bending it, you're not gonna run your corners without fittings. And then off Amazon, I bought a whole bunch of these 3/4 inch clamps so that I can clamp them on and nail it to my walls. There you go. That's how you use Pex. Super duper easy. All right, I want to point out one quick potential mistake that can be made with Pex, and I started getting comfortable with this and hurrying a bit. This one's nicely done. It's square. About an 1/8 inch from the end, so it's as close as it can be, but still within tolerance. This one is about an 1/8 inch as well. I don't know if you can see the difference between the two. This one I had nice and square. This one I got sloppy with my crimping tool and had it on a little bit of an angle, which gave a twist to the copper collar. So it's a bit twisted this way, a bit of a parallelogram. So I'm going to cut this one back off and redo it if I can do it without damaging the Pex. I'll just put a new piece on there. Otherwise, I'll cut this one off as well and redo both. But it's important just to pay attention that your collars are square and they don't get that kind of cant or twist to them. One thing I found that helped slightly with the stiffness of the 3/4 was to unroll it and leave it sit for a week in between times working on it. Out in the sun's even better, but just even stretching out like this helped me out a bit and may help you out as well.
Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough.
All right, quick progress update. There's where my new lines for the drains drop. My incoming line comes in on the top. There's a T right behind those two drain lines. One side of the T goes in the corner here as a drop. I'll use that for filling tires parked outside of the garage. Another drop in the corner in case I happen to be working on a car in here. And I put a drop in that corner. You can see the blue line there. in case I happen to be working on a car on that side. Although this is the side typically that we park in. Sometimes it gets used for working on cars. The feed line comes in over there, and then I ran it through the end of the trusses, dropped down, and then right there you can see it goes through the wall into the shop over here. Pops out on this side, and I run a T, goes this way to a drop here, which will be a desiccant dryer filter regulator for painting, and then a drop over here that will be, again, for running an air house out to the driveway for pumping up tires or things like that. Drop that will plumb directly into the air compressor for maximum flow. Drop for air tools, drop for air tools, drop for air tools here. And then ran it up across the ceiling and down, and I will have one drop right here as well. So at the end of each of these lines will be a brass housing that is PEX on one end, and then it is guessing 3/4, 1/2 inch, 5/8 NPT. I don't know. And then that will get plumbed to an air coupler or quick disconnect. So this will mount kind of right like that to the wall. And then I'll use these 3 screw holes to mount it. Plan on using just inexpensive drywall screw because it has really coarse threads for screwing into the cedar to attach those. So I need to buy those coupler fittings. I'll get those on order and in, and then we'll wrap this project up. Good morning, it's Saturday morning. Hi. Trying to wrap up this project today. So today I'm installing the drops on the wall of my workshop. Not going to show you all of them because that'd be boring, but it's real simple steps. Slip on a brass collar, copper collar, let it fall off, put it back on, put on your PEX fitting. Now I already installed my 3/4 PEX to this female NPT end, and I'll put a link in the comments to the ones I bought off Amazon. This is a 1/2 inch to 1/4 NPT bushing, and then I have my industrial quick disconnect air coupler. I'm the industrial kind of my shop. They have 2 stripes on the quick release barrel. The automotive ones I think have 1 stripe. Simply get the coupler in the place that I want it. Probably the hardest part this whole step is just getting it in that 1/8 inch away from the end of the fitting, between an 1/8 inch and 1/4, getting it to hold there. My crimping tool is pretty straight. There we go. Now I've got a couple drywall screws that I think will bite well into the, I actually have cedar on the side of my shop. Why cedar, you might ask? Because I found a sawmill had a whole bunch they wanted to get rid of really, really affordably. My head's probably in your way. 3 screws, there we are. Got 7 of these in the shop. I'm gonna wrap up the rest of them. I was wrong, there's 8 of them, not 7. Here's the finished product. Turn the compressor on, pressured up the system. Now I just have a spray bottle of soapy water, and I am just hitting all the joints, looking for any bubbles. I know I have at least one spot that's leaking. So you know what it looks like. This one is only temporarily put together. You can see that the bubbles keep forming as the air leaks out. Eventually this spot here is where I'm gonna put my dryer, desiccant filter, my desiccant dryer, filter, and regulator. And so I just screwed these in to plug the system. Didn't even put Teflon tape on, which is why I've got the leaks. But while I'm here, just gonna test the different spots that I've got. All right, this is not exciting for you to watch. There's the rest of my system. Drop. I do have another leak here. I plumbed it directly into my sandblasting cabinet and where the hose attaches on the inside. On the inside, you can hear probably got the leak. Another drop. Another drop. Let's go upstairs and see how that looks. Eventually I may run lines up here, but right now this is mainly just storage space and not workspace. I think I hear a leak. There it is. Another leak. On the second leak. That one has been a bear for me to get to seal. That one should be easy to fix. So all my joints are doing very well, except for these 2 copper brass compression fittings. I have not been able to get either of those to hold air well. The other one that's nagging me is this large 2-inch bushing. I had my largest pipe wrench on there with an extension, and I have it down to just a slow trickle of air leaking between these 2. And I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to get that better. What I may need to do here is not go with a compression fitting, but instead go with a fitting that I solder or sweat on that goes to a pipe thread similar to that. If I have to, I'll do that. Because I don't have the parts with me today, I'm gonna try a bit of a hack solution. I've cleaned this with brake clean, and I'm gonna wipe a little JB Weld around this compression fitting and put it back together to see if let it cure for a day and see if that seals up the leak. If not, I'm gonna pull it apart and cut this off here anyway, so I've got little to lose. So we'll see if that works. All right, here's my JB weld. You mix 50% steel, 50% hardener, mix it up till it's nice and gray. And then put a thin coat inside of there and around that, and then put it together. I'm gonna do that off camera because I need 2 hands. This is a little bit of a hack solution, but I'm curious to see if it'll work. All right, now to tighten it up. Same thing up here. JB weld is all around that compression ring. Slide the collar in. Time to snug it up. All right, so the airline project is done and wrapped up. As hackish as it was, my JB weld temporary fix on those 2 3/4 inch compression fittings upstairs held. If it doesn't over time, I will sweat in a copper fitting, probably with a union, so I can disconnect the system from the compressor. The whole system ended up costing me probably about $400 total for all of the brass fittings. Compression collars, including the PEX tools, all the PEX lines, all of the industrial air couplers, clamps, all of that. So all in's right around $400 in today's dollars, which is, it's 2022. I don't know when you're watching this. Inflation's real great right now. So, you know, this may cost you $4,000, cost you $4,000 in the future. So far, I love the system. It is so nice. Previously, I had 100-foot long, small diameter air hoses run all over the floor from upstairs, and I had horrible airflow. My air hoses leaked, so there was constant hissing all over the place. And right now, I'm in my shop. There's air in the lines, and it is quiet. And wherever I need it, I've got air. Which is great. Haven't had a single PEX line or PEX joint leak. I did have one that I tried to, it's that temporary one over there. I tried to tighten it up with a wrench, tighten the brass fitting. So I held the PEX line and then put a wrench on the fitting, which caused the PEX line to kind of flex. And I had a little air, so you go psst, and I let go and it stopped leaking. So it's definitely kind of springy, holding the copper collar, holding it against the brass. But I haven't had a single one of the PEX joints leak or fail on me. So I'm really happy with it. It's way cheaper than had I gone with copper or black pipe or galvanized. I do like the fact that it'll never rust inside and send flecks of steel through that might get into my air tools or into my paint guns. So I'm 2 thumbs up with this project. Next, I'm going to work on building a desiccant air dryer along with a motor guard filter. So stay tuned for the next video on that I will use for painting. Thanks for being part of this. Subscribe if you have questions. Leave a comment below. I'll respond to them to the best of my ability. In the description, I will list the parts I used and approximate costs. So if you want to do the same, you can. Have a great day. Remember, with your projects, the most important thing you need is a willingness to try. Have a great day. God bless.